Maculopathy is a disorder of the macula, the central retinal zone responsible for fine detail and color. At the molecular level, the early imbalance involves phototransduction in cones and sometimes parafoveal rods, with oxidative stress, mitochondrial dysfunction, excess reactive oxygen species, and changes in ion channels and calcium handling that reshape glutamate release onto bipolar, horizontal, amacrine, and ganglion cells. The retinal pigment epithelium, RPE, becomes less efficient at phagocytosing photoreceptor outer segments, alters the vitamin A visual cycle, loses efficiency in lipid and ion transport, and accumulates lipofuscin. Between RPE and choroid, Bruch's membrane thickens and drusen form, enriched in lipids and proteins that trigger complement activation and danger signals. Microglia and Müller glia switch on, inflammatory mediators rise, and pathways of apoptosis, necroinflammation, or cellular senescence become more active, while autophagy and proteostasis can no longer keep up. In exudative wet-bond forms, pro-angiogenic signaling, dominated by VEGF, promotes choroidal neovessels, higher vascular permeability, leakage, and edema that mechanically and biochemically disturb photoreceptors. The optic nerve is not the primary site, but it carries a weaker or noisier output from ganglion cells. Along the visual pathway, neurons in the lateral geniculate nucleus and primary visual cortex change their firing patterns, and compensatory reweighting engages attention networks, the superior colliculus, and the cerebellum to stabilize gaze and interpret degraded input. To cope with the central scotoma microsaccades, an eccentric fixation increase. Extraocular muscles, recti and obliques, and the levator palpebrae work harder, and their tendons anchor to the sclera. In parallel, the ciliary muscle and iris are recruited under sympathetic and parasympathetic control to adjust focus and pupil size for contrast and depth of field. The main organs involved are the eye, retina, RPE, choroid sclera lens, eyelids, and the lacrimal gland, and the brain's visual areas. Other organs do not switch on specifically, yet systemic metabolism, blood pressure and inflammatory tone can modulate perfusion and retinal stress. At synapses, remodeling occurs between photoreceptors and bipolar cells with shifts in glutamate transport and receptor balance, and a drop in neurotrophic support can make neurons more vulnerable. In the oculomotor response, cranial nerves Zwerg, IV, and 6 in coordinate movements. The trigeminal nerve supports ocular sensation and reflex arcs, and the facial nerve drives blinking and the lacrimal pump. Orbicularis, oculi, and frontalis muscles may also engage when a person squints to enhance contrast. Key body fluids include choroidal and retinal blood, the vitreous, which can transmit traction, aqueous humor, tears, and retinal interstitial fluid that, when increased, produces edema. In dry progression, geographic atrophy can appear as RPE and photoreceptors shut down, and the choriocapillaris thins, reducing oxygen delivery. Lipid peroxidation and advanced glycation add local rigidity and toxicity. As adaptation progresses, the brain downweights foveal use and upweights a peripheral preferred retinal locus, demanding more attention and oculomotor control, which can lead to fatigue or headache. The optic nerve sheath is continuous with cerebrospinal fluid spaces, so pressure balance around the nerve can influence comfort and biomechanics. Even though macular disease starts in the retina rather than the brain,